In 1966, someone stole the World Cup. Not a copy, but real trophy. The original cup was stolen from a public show in London in the middle of the day with 6 guards standing right there. The police investigated and a ransom note arrived. The whole country panicked. England was just 4 months away from hosting the World Cup with no trophy to give out. And then suddenly a dog found it. A man was walking his dog named Pickles one morning in South London. And then all of a sudden, Pickles stopped and started sniffing something near the neighbor's car. A package wrapped with newspaper and tied with strings. And inside was the most famous trophy in sport. And that's how a dog did it, what a police could not. England went on to win the World Cup 4 months later. Their captain Bobby Moore lifted that exact trophy at Wembley Stadium. But there's a part that nobody talks about. The same trophy was stolen in 1983 from the headquarters of football in Brazil, and this time nobody found it. The original World Cup trophy has never been recovered. It is still missing today and nobody knows where it is. The most famous prize in sport gone forever. And get all of this, the World Cup became the biggest sporting event on earth. Today we are going to find out why, and the answer is not what you think. Let's go back to 1928 Paris. A French lawyer named Julius Rene standing in a room with lots of football officials and proposed a simple idea. A tournament with every country with best players with no limits. And he called it the World Cup. And in May 1928, the idea gets approved. Simple, right? Not quite. Almost immediately, everything goes wrong. There are lots of questions and lots of situations. Question is, where do we host it now? Europe says no because the Great Depression is beginning and nobody wants to send a football team across the ocean in a tournament that they might fail because it's going to cost them a lot of money. And that's how the first World Cup in 1930 only had 13 teams, because most European countries refused to take the long trip to Uruguay. And on the other hand, Rene carried the trophy onto the boat himself. No big ceremony, no camera, no sponsor. Just a man with a cup under his arms, hoping his idea would work. And in the finals of the first World Cup, Uruguay beat Argentina 4-2 in front of 93,000 people. The idea worked. Just barely, but it worked. And in that stadium, something happened that nobody could explain yet. Tens of thousands of people feel the same thing at the same moment. Joy, pain, pride, sorrow. Nobody understood it at the time. But decades later, scientists discovered why moments like this feel so powerful. We will get there, but first, the dark years. The World Cup gets through its first 10 years. 1934, it was hosted by Italy. 1938, France. The tournament is growing. People are paying attention. But then the reality hits hard. In 1934, Italy's leader, Benito Mussolini, used the World Cup as a tool to make himself look powerful. And then Italy wins. Many people believe that the referees were influenced. The beautiful idea of football bringing the nations together crashed straight into the ugly reality of football being used by powerful people. Then comes the worst part. 1942, World Cup was cancelled because of World War II. And then again in 1946, as the World War is still happening, the World Cup cancelled again. And that's how 12 years gone. The tournament that Rene spent 7 years fighting for gone for 12 years because the world went into war. And then in 1950, the World Cup returned, and this time Brazil hosted. And the very first tournament back delivers us the most shocking moment in entire sports history. Brazil versus Uruguay. More than 173,000 people were packed into one stadium. Still the biggest crowd in World Cup history. Brazil only needed a draw to win the whole thing. And on the other hand, Uruguay needs to win. And finals, Uruguay win with a score of 2-1. More than 173,000 people went on complete silent at the same time, and it is called the Maracanã. Brazilian players cried on the grass and fans cried in the stands. A football result caused a grief on a national level. This is when the world started to understand what the World Cup really is. Not just a sport event, but something much deeper than that. And then in Switzerland 1954, West Germany versus Hungary in finals. Hungary had not lost a single match in 4 years. They beat England 6-3 at Wembley. This was the first time England had ever lost at home. They beat West Germany with a score of 8-3 earlier in the same tournament. Hungary is the best team anyone had ever seen. On paper, this final should be close, but then West Germany wins with a score of 3-2. The miracle is born, one of the biggest upsets in sports history. But the upset is not the most important thing happened in 1954. What is most important is how people watched it. For the first time, television introduced. Black and white screens, small in shape and grainy. In bars, living rooms across Europe, millions of people with different countries, different languages, watch the same match at the same second. And here is where science gives us the most surprising discovery about sports. Scientists discover something strange about the human brain. There is the cell in our brain called the mirror neurons. Basically, they fire when you do something, but they also fire when you see someone else do the same thing. What this means is, if you see a player score a goal on television, your brain will fire as you scored the goal. Basically, the brain does not fully separate you from what you are watching. In 1954, for the first time, 50 million Europeans brain fire at the same time, at the same moment. Different countries, same mental experience. Televisions did not just grow the World Cup audience. It turned the World Cup into something that your brain experienced personally, while even sitting on your couch. And then 1958 Sweden. A 17-year-old Brazilian boy played his first World Cup, and his name is Pele. He scores 6 goals. He cried after the final. He is just 17 years old and already the best player alive. But there is something strange. People all over the world cried with him. People who had never been to Brazil. People who would never meet him. People who had no logical reason to feel what he felt. So why does a 17-year-old Brazilian boy make the whole world cry? Researchers who study sports fans found something interesting. Being a fan of a sports team gives people a sense of belonging. That sense of belonging leads directly to the feeling of meaning in life. Not just happiness, but actual meaning. And here is why this matters so much right now. Researchers have found that modern life is making people feel extremely isolated. And that's exactly why events like World Cup matter more than ever. In a world getting lonelier every year, the World Cup gives billions of people something increasingly rare, a shared emotional experience. At the same moment, with millions of other humans. Our brain does not know all those 6 billion people personally, but our brain feels connected to them anyway. This is why Pele made whole world cry in 1958. And this is why the World Cup keeps growing, even as the world getting more and more divided. People come for football and their brains stay for connection. Now let's talk about 1986 Mexico. Argentina versus England quarterfinals. 4 years before this match, Argentina and England fought a real war over a bunch of islands called the Falklands. Soldiers died on both sides. The pain was still fresh. This is not just a football match. Research on sports fans shows something uncomfortable. The small tribe instincts that help humans survive in a smaller group for thousands of years, those same instincts fire when we watch a sports. We feel our team is our tribe and other team is the enemy tribe. Usually it is harmless, but sometimes it is not. In 1969, El Salvador and Honduras went to a war after a heated World Cup qualifying match. 2,000 people died, and this incident known as the Football War. And Argentina versus England in 1986 was the modern World Cup that has come to that intensity. Two countries that recently went to war, meeting on a football pitch with the world watching. Diego Maradona scores 2 goals in 6 minutes. That shows the full range of what humans are capable of. First goal, he punched the ball into the net with his hands. The referee does not see it, and goal stands. Maradona say afterward, it was scored. A little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. The hand of God goal, the most controversial moment in World Cup history. Maradona takes the ball from his own half. He runs 60 meters. He beat 5 English players and goalkeeper and scores. Later voted as the goal of the century. Cheating and pure genius in the same match. And that too by the same player with just 6 minutes apart. Research shows that the fans of the winning team experience a surge of 20% more testosterone after their team won. And on the other hand, fans of a losing team experience a drop of 20% in their testosterone. That is not a story, and this is a scientific measurement. Maradona's 2 goals in 1986 changed the body chemistry of millions of people on this planet. And this is the World Cup. By the 2000s, the World Cup has become something that Rene never imagined. A business worth billions. Coca-Cola, Adidas, McDonald's, biggest companies in the world are pouring their money in, and television deals that would make your head spin. In 2010, World Cup had 3.2 billion viewers. That is nearly half the planet. And then comes 2015. American and Swiss police arrested FIFA officials from a luxurious hotel in Zurich. The charges were over $150 million of bribes paid over 24 years for the rights to host tournaments, for television deals, for sponsorships. The people running world football had been treating the sport like their personal money machine. The president of FIFA for 17 years resigned. The organization, built on René's dream of football bringing the world together, turns out to be one of the most corrupted sports bodies on the earth. And yet, the World Cup does not fall apart. 2018, Russia, 3.4 billion viewers. 2022, Qatar. Despite serious question about how the stadium were built, 5 billion viewers and 1.5 billion people watched the final alone. The tournament gets bigger, even though the corruption, because people do not watch FIFA officials, people watch football, and your brain does not care about any corruption in a hotel in Zurich. Your brain cares about connection, about the shared experience of billions of people feeling the same thing at the same moment. René understood something in 1928 that the scientists confirmed in 2020, and that is human beings are built for this. And this now brings us today, 2026, America, Canada, Mexico, 48 countries competing for the first time. And this is the biggest World Cup in history. Nearly $4 billion in broadcast rights. 5 million people attend in person. 6 billion people are watching at home, including me. From 13 teams in Uruguay in 1930 to 48 teams in 2026. From Julius René carrying a trophy onto a boat to the largest event in human history. And remember, the original trophy that René carried is still missing, stolen in 1983 and never found. The World Cup, in a sense, outlived its own trophy. For 96 years, this idea survived everything. War, corruption, boycott, scandal, theft, and that too twice. It survived everything because the thing underneath all of it is actual football. And it connects to something deeper inside the human brain. Something that cannot be corrupted. Something that cannot be stolen. Because you can't bribe a great goal. You cannot fix a Maradona run. You cannot manufacture a Pele. You cannot pay for the feeling of 6 billion people holding their breath at the same second. And those moments are real. And in a world where almost everything feels fake, real moments are worth more than anyone can pay for them. That is why you're watching the World Cup right now. That is why your grandfather watched it. That is why our children will watch it too. Julius René believed that football could bring the world together. A century later, billions of people are keep proving him right. Not because of a trophy and not because of FIFA. If this video made you see World Cup differently, share it with one friend who is watching World Cup right now. Not because they need to know the history, because now they can understand how they feel and why they feel so much of happiness when their favorite player or their favorite team scores. This feeling has a name. It's called belonging. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. Until then, this side Sahil signing off. Jai Hind.